mechanisms for the society.
Now, the university's academic staff union officials, IPUCCF representatives and the Cabinet Secretary for Education are this morning appearing before the National Assembly Education Committee with regard to the ongoing lecturers' strike.
From the IFMIS showing that the State Department has paid out this amount, leaving a balance of only 1.7 billion. And to our understanding, this balance will be dispersed by the State Department through the monthly grants through to June 2018. So therefore, Chair, in total, an amount of roughly 15.3 billion was provided to the State Department for the full implementation of the 2013-2017 CBA. The State Department for University Education should provide the status of the disbursements to the various universities and hence the extent of implementation of the 2013-17 CBA. Chair, on the final issue is on proposals on the way forward in resolving the current stalemate regarding implementation of the 2013-17 and 2017-2021. In regard to the 2013-2017 CBA, the National Treasury's view is that it has fulfilled its obligations by providing the funds requested by the State Department to enable fully implementation of the CBA. The second suggestion is that the court case that has been filed by the university lecturers to stop the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, SRC, from concluding the job evaluation should be withdrawn to allow the commission to finalize the exercise. And 3, the determination of the offer to the universities will be subject to the recommendations of the SRC once it is formed. There is a need for the State Department to carry out a payroll audit to establish the actual number of university employees and the cost of their compensation. And finally, Chair, the State Department should also conduct a financial audit of the expenditure, but also of revenues, and the other internal control systems in the universities in order to establish how funds released from the exchequer and those generated internally are applied and accounted for. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and thank you for that very short and brief presentation. And I think the next chair showing the job evaluation is you've just indicated.
Yes.
So, yes. I think, as I had communicated earlier on, we'll allow the presenters to finish their presentation. Honorable members, kindly note down whichever question you will want to and where you are directing to. So straight away we go to Ministry of Education, State Department for University Education.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Chair, I will address the meeting on the ministry's responsibilities in the 2013-2017 CBA, and
maybe
also
kindly, PS, you have your write-ups so that we can be following it up.
I thought we have I was informed that this was distributed. The rest were not.
I think they are. Proceed. I think they are. Do you have, Philip? Oh, thank you. Proceed. Yes. I hope they are enough for the members.
So, Chair, in terms of the ministry's responsibility in the 2013-2017 CBA, I want to state as follows. Number one, Chair, we liaised with the National Treasury and IPUCCF to come up with a counter offer. And I think, as confirmed by Treasury, a counter offer of 10 billion was given. And number two, Chair, that the National Treasury has indicated provided the funds in two tranches of 4.775 billion in March 2013 and 5.225 billion in July of 2017, which was shared between the three unions, UASU, KUSU, and KUDEA, as per a schedule provided by the IPUCCF, which were paid for arrears. Number three, Chair, also to state that the National Treasury, as has been indicated here, agreed to release a further 5.3 billion in November 2017 to enhance and sustain the new salaries as we indicate here below, which is that out of this amount, the ministry released 2.136 billion for 5 months from July to November 2017 to cover the outstanding arrears. Mr. Chair, the remaining amount is being disbursed at a rate of Kenya shillings 465 million per month towards sustaining the new salaries for the remaining months of 2017-2018 financial year. Chair, arising from other meetings we've had is to say that the ministry is conducting an audit, the application of these resources as was intended by the universities. So the audit is currently ongoing to find out whether the monies released were utilized for the purposes that they were intended. So, Chair, from the above, as you can see, the ministry has played its part in terms of receiving the monies from Treasury and conduiting it to the universities, so that then the universities will account through us, let alone as intended by government. Chair, the second part I want to indicate is that as regards the ministry's obligations and procurement for the 2013-2017 CBA, one is that we give a counter offer in relation with the Treasury, just as I've pointed out. The ministry worked with the universities, and the money has been disbursed, and the ministry has given guidance to the universities on their budgetary and financial responsibilities and the prudent use of those resources. And we hope the universities are using those resources for purposes that were intended. Chair, for us, as regards the way forward for the 2017-2021 CBA, the ministry is consulting with the Treasury, IPUCCF, and SRC to come up with a counter offer. I think, Chair, what I want to tell this meeting here is that we all know that until towards the end of January this year, as a country, we were through a very difficult political period, during which, in my own understanding, when I went to the Ministry of Education, that very many things, including this MBA, was not attended to during that period, so that it has come to our notice in February that it required to be attended to. So that's the starting point. So we think as a ministry is that we are also analyzing the payroll and statutory obligation in data, which is being received from all the universities. I think we have almost completed this now, to determine a sustainable counter offer for the current CBA. And our plan, Chair, is that we need to analyze this data so that we can come up, we can be able to provide a reliable method of setting this CBA as a basis for setting future CBAs to prevent a very old problem in the universities where we have had strikes year in, year out, which has destabilized the teaching and research program in our universities since the early 1990s. I think we should work for a way to bring this to a stable and a predictable situation so that we don't have lecturers out of class for long periods as we are seeing now. However, Chair, like we have been saying, is that UASU has a court injunction on job evaluation by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, and this is hindering the smooth negotiations moving forward. I think, Chair, you also understand that the commissioners for SRC, their term expired, and SRC commissioners are critical in us setting up the counter offer moving forward. So those are the bottlenecks that we are getting into, and I have been talking to UASU members themselves. They have visited me twice, and I've explained to them this situation and saying that we need to.
All right, so